Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Allison and I'm really excited today because it's my first interview with a couple. I haven't done this yet and I hope it's the first of many. I met Mark and Mayda online on Instagram, or I know Mark from the Orthosphere, the chats like Jay Dyer's live streams, Church of the Eternal Logos, and he's so positive and fun. And then just found him on Instagram, I guess, and found his lovely wife, Mayda. And they're going to tell us all about their journeys, their spiritual quests for truth, and where it has brought them today. And I hope we get to learn about how they met. They're recently married, so they're newlyweds. And I'm just really going to let them talk, and I might have some questions here and there, but I told them that this is their interview, all about them. So without further delay, welcome Mark and Mayda.
Hi, thanks for having us on your show. We really appreciate it. Me and Mark, part of our journey has been one, finding each other through our journey and working our way together through our journey together and finding, the ultimate truth in what we believe in and that God is true and that he's our one and only savior. So growing up, I would have to say I lived a pretty rough life. I was adopted at the age of 2 into a not so loving family. So growing up wasn't really easy for me in general. I left when I was 18, ended up still making bad decisions, going into an abusive relationship after that for 4 years, and getting myself into trouble. With the law and stuff like that. So I've made a lot of mistakes in my past, and through that I've always believed in God, but I guess in a sense you're mad at God about why he would put you through all these things and all these situations, and you don't really know how to handle it. So you go searching for the truth, you go searching. So ultimately, I ended up leaving that relationship and finding Mark. And that's how we met. We met when I was kind of broken, honestly. I think we were both kind of broken.
Yeah.
Both alcoholics, both just running wild, crazy, going out, partying, not giving a care in the world about anything, So ultimately we made a lot of mistakes, but we kind of pulled through that. We knew that if we just stuck together and we made it through together, we had one another. So that being the sense is we made ourselves better. We tried to better ourselves. And it's been a process. It's definitely been a very hard process, but I'm very thankful that God has finally shown me that, what the good in life can bring you if you just believe in him. So that's part of why we're here today, is just to express ourselves and to express our gratitude with God and thank him for everything that he's done for us. So I'll kind of let Mark kind of go into his journey and what he's been through and things like that as well.
Yeah, well, I was raised Catholic. My mother is still a devout Catholic, and I was raised in a Catholic household. I walked like to church every day with my mother to St. John of the Cross, and I attended Catholic school from preschool all the way up till about 7th grade, and then I started attending public school just right after that. And right then I started, there were things like smoking weed started right then in about 7th grade. And that's slowly when I started kind of rebelling. That rebellious stage started falling into that and falling away from, I never really stopped believing in Christ. I've said that before, but he definitely was in the back of my mind. He wasn't in the forefront of my mind like he is now. He wasn't at the top of my list of priorities, I guess would be a good way to put it. And moving from there, I got into years down the line, I got into Kundalini Yoga. And I got into this from Rickson Gracie, because I was into jiu-jitsu. I was into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I studied under Fabio Santos, who's like a world champion. And his teacher, who gave him his black belt, was Rickson Gracie. And I saw this documentary called Choke. And in Choke, Rickson, he's training for this like Japanese, he's like the only undefeated Gracie fighter. So he's like a legend in street fighting and MMA. And he's training for a tournament in Japan, and he's doing these breathing exercises. And I was like, what the heck is this? I've never seen anybody doing this before. And he's got his rib cage is all like, it just looks really intense. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And so that's how I first was introduced to Kundalini Yoga. And I became really obsessed with it. And I started doing it every day, along with like an MMA routine, which I would do. It was called Boss Rutan's All Around Workout. So I would do that, and then I'd wind down with some Kundalini Yoga.
Can I, just for the audience, can you describe, because it's possible some people have never heard of it or seen it. I know it combines breathing and movement and visualization, right?
Yeah, no, it's like one of the most ancient styles of yoga still practiced, and there's different forms, and there's has a lot more to do with breathing, but there's also definitely some physical postures. But ultimately, it's a branch, it's a part of Hinduism, which I wasn't totally aware of at the time, which I was totally unaware of actually at the time. But I came to be more aware of, but wasn't still, it was still, like, it's not, the way it was presented to me was just in such a, like how a lot of New Age, I think, is presented to people in a very innocent way. You know, it's not really as fun about, you're doing these postures are actually reverence to specific deities in Hinduism. I have no idea, you know, but in reality, that's what it is. And yeah, that's Kundalini Yoga. I started doing that for a long time. And I had actually an experience which is referred to as a blue pearl experience, which is where I was focusing with my eyes closed on my pineal gland, and I had a blue orb of energy come into my vision with my eyes closed. And I felt like, I don't know what I felt, but I felt the essence of something flow through me in that moment, which was presented to me in a joyous manner. But as time's gone on, I've come to realize that I believe that was a false light that came to me, and something that the fruits of which are not, they don't last. It's not a lasting fruit. Nothing that comes, because then I've started to, and over time, I've analyzed and conversed and come into contact with a lot of people in this world, in the Kundalini world, and the fruits of their life, it's just not what I want for myself. I see it not leading to good things. I don't see them being very fruitful. I don't see them having lots of children. They don't seem fulfilled in the ways that I want to be fulfilled, moving forth with my family, my life, my children, and a life in God and Jesus Christ. And it's unique how the one thing that all these New Age mentalities and philosophies seem to reject, whenever you bring up Jesus Christ, it's just an automatic no. You'll notice, like, all across the board, whenever you bring up Jesus Christ as the Son of God, you'll get this like knee-jerk reaction. It's like almost like that name in itself can trigger, I don't know if you would say inner demons or something, triggers something, that's for sure. And I don't want to be too judgmental, because I also came from these philosophies for a long time. I was engaging in them, and they led me to a point where we started opening up mentally, because there was like research coming out, and I should have known better, because there's a lot of research coming out about a lot of things that I don't really agree with, but I'm not going to go too into details about that. But there was research coming out about psychedelic therapy and how this can be used for PTSD for people with military backgrounds, things of that nature. And I'm not a military person by any means, but
we do have PTSD.
We've got our own issues that we've been working through spiritually and mentally, and just searching for truth. And we thought this had to do with spiritual truth. And hey, we could. And at one point, I literally thought that the mushrooms could be the lost Eucharist, and which, I mean, is absolute blasphemy, but which I've come to learn is absolute blasphemy. But at that time, I really thought, I was like, oh, I think, what if this was the Eucharist that these people were taking? And I was really spiritually lost, obviously, under it was total pre-list, spiritual delusion. But
Speaking of
I'm
that,
happy.
can I ask you a question when you had that blue pearl experience?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, 'cause I don't want to put words in your mouth, so tell me if this relates to you, but a lot of times when we have these amazing experiences, it just adds to the self worship, like then we
Yeah.
idolize ourselves
Totally.
even more, like, oh, now I reached this next level, I'm even more enlightened and I'm closer to God, Christ consciousness, and God is in me, I am God. And that's,
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from my experience. I just wonder if that, if,
Yeah.
And that's
I
how we
never.
felt with the mushrooms. When
Yeah.
we dove into that spiritual healing ceremony that we ended up doing. We really thought that exactly what you said.
Well, the thing is, I never totally gave in to the whole Christ consciousness thing.
mhm,
That always, that always like there was something always about that personally, Christ consciousness in particular, that irked me. There was always something in particular, but at the same time, experiences like that I could see led my ego into a similar way of thinking, whether I realized it or not, or whether I labeled it as Christ consciousness. It was still a self-worship in the sense that, oh, I achieved this blue pearl experience that came through like through my dedication to Kundalini or whatever it may be. So it definitely fed more of my ego in an edifying of myself rather than an edifying of Jesus Christ and God, the Creator.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a pattern I see. I mean, I watched so many testimony videos and yeah, I've heard that a lot, that it's, and for me, part of my transition, my testimony of coming out of the new age and following Jesus Christ was exactly what you said. There's like, I'd been worshiping myself, and now it's like everything just shifted over to, oh my gosh, no, the creator, our Lord, is the one I should be worshiping, not myself. But now when I look at it, it seems so obvious, but I had been in the new age for 30 years. I was not raised Christian or anything. So anyway, I don't want to go on about me, but I'm just loving this so far. I can relate to so much of what you're saying. So tell us more about that one particular mushroom experience.
Yeah, well, so I found this group. It was a group of local veterans. I don't want to like expose anybody or anything like that, but basically we came into contact with them through the internet, and we started going on these nature walks where you would kind of microdose and take a walk, and it was nice. It was from that aspect. It was, everything's usually, these things usually start off very nice. They start off very like attractive, and everything's fun at first. Usually,
you're healing yourself.
yeah, it's like
bettering yourself.
it draws you in. It usually draws you in very nice. A lot of these new age practices, a lot of the stories I've heard, they start off very good. And this one did too, and it was good. And we were walking, and we did that. And from there, I started finding out about these ceremonies that were taking place on native land that some of these gentlemen were traveling out to. And I was like, oh, that sounds very interesting. I always wanted to do something. I always had like, because you hear about people traveling out to South America to do ayahuasca and all these things, Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan and everybody. And it's a very popular thing, and I wanted to experience it firsthand in a raw environment where I thought it was going to be pure and raw, and you know what I mean, along those lines. And so that's what we were shooting for, and that's what we thought we were getting into. And we took it very serious. We even we ate a specific diet leading into it. I mean, we didn't go raw vegan or anything, but I was abstaining from pork and trying to eat in a more conscientious fashion, and we were abstaining from alcohol and not even engaging in intercourse for a few weeks beforehand, and really taking it super serious. And so yeah, we traveled down to this native land, and we're leading up to the ceremony, and we're going around, we're gathering sage, we're we're doing these practices. He's showing us, the leader of the ceremony was showing us around his area, and we're kind of gathering sage and things of that nature, and we're gathering wood to burn in the fire, and he's telling us about the land and kind of like basically the philosophies that they engage in, and what have you. And it's leading up to the night. We have a place to stay there. We have a room that we're staying in, so we go there and we relax for a bit. And the ceremony started around, what was it, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Yeah, so we get called back to come back out to the ceremony, and he had asked us, do you want to do the full dose? And the full dose there was 15 grams, and we said we both committed to the full dose. And so we went into the ceremony, and we're all sitting around in a circle, and you have to come into the it's called a long pitch. You have to walk in and then walk in a
certain way,
clockwise fashion, in a clockwise circle. And so we have our seat in there, and
How many people were with you?
this ceremony had about, like, it was more than any of the other ceremonies.
17 men, and I was the only female.
She was the only female there, and they're all like military vets.
So they're all like military vets.
Most of them, yeah.
People who have PTSD. They're people who because this was a healing ceremony. So it was people who are trying to better themselves. People trying to improve their lives.
Work through PTSD.
Work through the PTSD. So this was like a healing ceremony. So this, I thought, was going to be a great
experience to heal, spiritual healing.
Yeah. And then how many assistants, or I mean, how
I think
many?
There was probably 4 or 3. No, there was 3.
Three sober assistants.
3 sober assistants.
And did you
Oh,
feel?
Who wasn't even sober? There was actually 2 sober people, and the rest were on shrooms.
Did you feel comfortable and confident and safe? Like this is a good, like I'm doing something good.
Up to there.
Yeah, we came in very confident, right?
Yes.
We came in very confident, and we're very confident people the whole way through. But as it carried on, we started seeing signs of things to come.
Like you don't really, when somebody says something, you kind of just blow it off.
Yeah, but then you think back later on, you're like, wait.
You think about it later on.
What was that?
Like, well, those are probably signs that wasn't a good environment for you to be in, or anything, because it really wasn't. And we'll go further into it. He'll go further into it. But it was a really intense situation, and I think that people who really dive into that type of thing, in all honesty, I think that they need to really watch what they do, because it's a very dangerous.
I wouldn't suggest diving into it.
I don't suggest it at all. But people are.
I would recommend not diving into it. But if you have to learn the hard way.
And just you're gonna be shown something that it's unpredictable, and it's not spiritual. It's not spiritual healing at all. It's definitely not that. Whatever, it was a lie.
Spiritual deception.
It was a spiritual deception.
Is what
and it's something that's hidden that a lot of people don't know about. They think it's all, it's just shrooms or microdosing, it's healing, and it's like, no, you don't see.
I think magic is real, and I think that's the scary part. Like I think it's like, it was like black magic out there, and it's like spiritual warfare is so much more real than we ever could imagine.
Yeah. So give us some more details. What happened next?
Yeah. So we receive our dose, in both our hands are like full of mushrooms. Like we're like this. We put out our hands to receive our dose, and we eat it. It was all eaten very abruptly, like really quick in that moment. And then we just sit around the fire, and I was just focusing on the fire, because that's what I was told to just focus on the fire, and to keep my focus kind of just attuned to that, so that I wouldn't drift away. That's what I was told by people there. So I was listening to that, and things were going fine. And I think about what was it, like an hour or an hour and a half in? Was it? You asked me if I noticed that the stars had disappeared, and she had looked up, and she was telling me that, and I looked up, and the stars had completely disappeared, and the sky was black. And then I remember my wife telling me, we're in a portal. And then right around that time, in my vision, I saw a flash of an upside down pentagram and then I saw Baphomet flash into my vision, and it was just really intense and clear. And right when I saw that, there was people around me in real time. This wasn't a hallucination. What I'm talking about now, about the people, their reaction, they started getting up and like dry heaving and becoming sick. Like a lot of people right after I saw that. It was very interesting. And then there was an older gentleman that seemed like he became possessed right then with a demonic spirit. And he started moving like a golem, like a golem from Lord of the Rings almost.
It was almost like you would see a human demon. He was all scrunched over, and he was just like,
I don't know how else to describe it, but demonic, because it was just very specific.
Like he was possessed.
Yeah,
it definitely
was. And we started getting the feeling that this wasn't a very
right then. I mean, that's a sign that you're like, whoa, what did I just get into?
Like we started acting weird, and he started shaking his head violently, and he was like not next to me. There was somebody in between us, but he was the person right next to that person, and it was
one person away from my wife.
It was just kind of, it turned demonic. Honestly, the whole situation just kind of turned from what I thought was supposed to be healing to just straight on demonic. And then you have these military people saying that they hate their ex-wives, but they're still going to pray for it. And it just the negative energy that people are spewing out. I don't know what, it just turned into this negative atmosphere.
So people were talking, or was there music being played, or
there
what?
Was basically people saying what they wanted to do the ceremony for, and then throwing sage into the fire and burning it as they said their intentions. So that's what we did before the ceremony started. Before we all ate the mushrooms, there was a moment where we went around and threw sage into the fire.
And then I had a moment too where I was talking to everybody, and I told everybody, I said, we're in a portal right now. I was telling everybody, I said, we're in a portal. I don't know if everybody understands what's going on, but we're in a portal. And I told them, I said that the evil's trying to come inside the portal right now.
Oh, wow.
When that happened, it just, everything, I mean, I felt it. It was just all negative. And it was just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just, there was definitely something going on, and it just got worse and worse. And he ended up jumping in a fire.
Well, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And
that happened later on in the
hitting somebody.
evening. Yeah, that happened later on.
Hitting somebody, because it just got so intense. They started attacking him.
Well, yeah.
And they started trying to separate me from him, which was a really, I didn't find that very comforting. They were trying to have me sleep outside on a mattress, which was really weird.
It got really weird.
It was very weird, and I just felt very uncomfortable. And
so if, let's say we were sitting here with other people that were there that night, would you say that they also would have the same perspective? Like, yeah, it was demonic and weird, or would they have?
The way they thought is that they thought we ruined the ceremony.
They thought we, the way that it was described to us, because I still have contact with some of these people. Some I've had to block, because it's gotten to like a harassment level. And some I've let continue to follow me, because I try not to block people unless it's necessary, because I want people to see the truth in what I found. Like, if they can see the truth in the fruits of what it is to really find Christ, that'd be awesome. And I wouldn't want to block them from that. Right. But if they're getting to a point where they're like attacking, and just like, I could just see that they're so lost and bitter that it may not be beneficial for us to have contact at this point, then I have to cut ties at a certain point. But yeah, there was a point right after where I told my story, and I was being attacked by some of the people that were at the same ceremony. So they definitely don't share our perspective of how the ceremony went and was carried out. And they think I'm a bad person, and that everything that happened was basically just my own inner demons.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Right.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, it was just, and it's just weird how they just turned it around on
they tried to flip it, like, oh, it's not the mushrooms that are evil, it's you that's evil because you have this reaction to it. But I think the real reason we had a reaction is because we have deep down faith in Christ, even if it may have been at the forefront of our mind at that time. I think Christ jumped like boom, like right there, and reminded me what really matters in that moment that night, because I had obviously forgotten, or else I wouldn't have been there. You know,
because there was a moment where he wasn't talking, and
yeah, well, that was after the
attack.
after the ceremony. So after the ceremony winded down, we went into the house, and we were just having a rough time making it into the house. We both had to use the restroom at one point, and there was just like, it just wasn't a good environment. It wasn't really well thought out. It wasn't really well planned out. It wasn't professional at all. And I mean, of course, it's not. I should have known that getting into it, what it was. So I have to take a certain amount of responsibility for what I put me and my wife into, which was a very unsafe, not well coordinated situation. And we found that out. Just unfortunately, by the time we found it out, we were already on 15 grams of mushrooms and in the middle of it. And so we navigated. By the time they were trying to get me to fall asleep and us to rest in the bed, and I was like, I'm not falling asleep here. And I had one of the gentlemen who was a helper kind of standing over us. And I think he meant well, but I don't think it's just not very easy to fall asleep with your wife on 15 grams of mushrooms with a stranger that you just met that night standing over you in a very close space. So I didn't feel comfortable, and I don't think she felt very comfortable, but she was trying to pull me down to fall asleep. And I was like, no, I think we need to get out of here immediately. Yeah. And there was something inside of me telling me, you need to get your wife out of here. Because I don't know what would have happened tonight, or the next morning there was going to be a sweat lodge. And I don't know physically how well she would have done with her. She has health issues with that too. So I think definitely there was something pulling me out of that situation to get out immediately. And I didn't fight it, but I picked her up and I took her outside, and everybody was looking at me like I was a crazy person because we're on 15 grams, and I'm like, we're going home. And they're like, you're not driving on 15 grams, which is understandable. That's an understandable concern. Driving on 15. Yeah, well, all right, so yeah, so I brought my wife back outside, and at this point, I was so far gone in the moment on 15 grams, I just couldn't speak. I was not really there. I was outside of myself. And there was a lot of people around me berating me at the moment, and then talking to me from all different directions. I couldn't really compute all of it. And I remember I had this voice in my head that was demonic in nature, and it was telling me that if I ever wanted to see my son again, that I needed to jump in the fire. And it was almost erasing the memory. I felt like the memory of my family and my son fading away. And it was like, and I know a lot of people would call it, oh, that's just an ego death, right? That's just ego death. You're just losing the memories. It's like, there's certain memories you don't need to lose, because what if you get to a state of mind where you never retain those memories again? And I started seeing people around me. I started observing my environment, and there was people walking in circles, talking to themselves. And then and another voice came in my head and said, Mark, that's exactly how those people that you would see walking around the streets, homeless, when you would ask yourself, how do people get to this point where they walk around and talk to themselves, these homeless people? And it's like, that's how they become like this, by doing this over and over again, 15 grams. And I feel like that was the voice of God right there.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I jumped into the fire, and I laid there, and I had to be dragged out by one of the helpers. So I just laid there in the fire. I didn't even take myself out.
Oh my
God. I was only there for like a couple seconds, but they got me out pretty quick.
Did your clothes or hair or anything catch on fire?
Yeah, my shirt was burnt a little bit. Yeah, and I stood up and I brushed my shirt off, and I had came back into my body at that moment, kind of like I woke me up, like, wow, I'm really alive. Like that was real, because I was almost in such a state where I didn't know reality from illusion. Yeah. And that definitely made things real again. And then shortly after that, I was trying to calm down and relax, and I had people coming at me from a lot of different directions and talking down to me in a very disrespectful manner. And then somebody was trying to tell me how to breathe. I think I was trying to do some yogic breathing to calm myself, because that's the world I was wrapped up in at that point. And I was trying to calm down, and somebody was trying to direct me on how to breathe, and I just got really frustrated. It wasn't really helpful. They were talking to me in a very condescending manner. And They were separated. They were trying to separate me from my wife at this point, and they were trying to have her lay on a mattress, and they were trying to bring me over here, and then I ended up, at one point, that's when I punched somebody shortly after that. I just felt very threatened, and I felt that I didn't know what was going to happen. I was on 15 grams of mushrooms, and I couldn't communicate verbally, and people weren't respecting my space, and they weren't respecting my wife, and they were talking to me in a very disrespectful tone, and I know what usually comes after that, which is usually some sort of violence or something to that effect. So I hit someone pretty hard, and they fell, and I was tackled from the side by the same dude that pulled me out of the fire. And then I got back to my feet, and we were wrestling around a little bit, and
I ended up just saying, I need to take him home.
yeah.
That's where I stepped in, and I just said, just please let me take him home. And they're like, you're on this, you're on that. I said, I don't care. I need to take him home. That's what's best. I know what's best for him. I need to go home. And we went home. That was basically.
Yeah, basically we went home.
And the drive home was intense.
It was insane. It was insane. It was like making it out of hell. It was like driving out of hell.
We made it home, and I thank God for that. Definitely thank God.
Wow.
It was like time was moving so slow on that drive home.
We thought we were gonna make it home. If I didn't have
all the
my
roads
phone,
looked the same.
If I didn't have my phone with my GPS, we probably would have died out there. It was just that
every road
intense.
looked the same. It was so dark. And it looked like this
felt like
pit
we were
that you
in
couldn't
hell.
ever make it out of. Every 5 minutes felt like 5 weeks. It was crazy.
It was really intense.
You guys, that is such a crazy story. And clearly God was there to direct you to get out of something that could have ended up much, much worse.
Yes.
And so we are now going to take a little break and start part 2 of this amazing story, and really focus on how, like, what happened next, how you went from the most demonic experience probably anyone could ever imagine to then dedicating your lives to God in Christ. I think that's what's coming next, but I'm not sure. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to learn more about how your faith has shaped your relationship together. So to my audience, please join us for part 2 of this amazing story with my guests, Mark and Mayda.